1,051,200 minutes. 2 years measured in minutes. Minutes which tick by and hours which make up our days, weeks, and years. Our years measured by the Earth's orbit of the sun, we owe to the precise Newtonian physics by which we set our watches to the second, and these days, if you have a need, to the nanosecond. So seemingly reliable are the physical laws of our galaxy that we forget what we think of as time is an entirely human construct. And in marking our time in such a mechanistic but sure manner, I mean, it's practical, we may not realize that there are other valuable ways to measure the span of our lives. The musical Rent ran for 12 years on Broadway, winning numerous awards. It was based on the Puccini opera La Bohème, about young artists coming of age in Paris. While poverty and tuberculosis robbed the protagonists of youth and vitality in the 19th century, it was homelessness and HIV that plagued the contemporary bohemians of Manhattan's Lower East Side in the play. The song Seasons of Love anticipates the death of one among close-knit friends, a reminder that a life cut short might be more meaningfully remembered in ordinary moments and measured in love rather than time. As Rajiv told you, this is my last Sunday before you. And it does feel to me that 2 years measured in time has been a bit short. But considered further, my role, my service to you as interim minister comes with an expiration date, which, regardless of the timestamp, would end seemingly abruptly anyway. In reality, no interim ministry ends with all the to-do lists complete, nor with all the boxes checked. Interim ministry begins with an ending and ends with a beginning. And the beginning starts with you taking the reins of this congregation. Stewardship and ownership of this fellowship by its members and friends marks the beginning of a new era in the life of this congregation. And so I did ask you 2 questions last Sunday, given this reality. The first was, I ask you to name the change, the transformation you observed in yourselves as members individually. And I asked you to name any overall changes in the fellowship as a body, as the congregation. Some say that what we think of as passing time is actually the change we experience in our living. And I wanted to know what you observed from your balcony view or your experience from the balcony of the congregation. Was there change? Was there movement from the existential place you were on the day that we met? The second question I asked was, are you willing to commit to, in order to take the reins, are you willing to commit to doing that and keep the life of the fellowship moving forward? I inquire if you're ready to own your part in making this congregation a healthy, progressive, and active place, welcoming to all seekers. I want to know if you know what kind of commitment is required of you to be in charge and to be the change you want to see in your congregation and beyond. Now that might seem daunting, but I keep telling you, you got this. First, let me thank the 40 or so people who responded by email, Zoom chat, and in writing last Sunday. And I'll ask that you switch to the next slide. The slide shows the questions and a sampling of the responses. And the responses to the first question were mostly sharing your personal shifts, and a lot of them were about shifting from passive to active participation in the congregation. A few of you observed overall shifts in the culture and quality of life in the fellowship that proved a bit disappointing to you. And some of you expressed worry about going forward without a minister. In response to the second question, your commitments included putting in your time, talent, and treasure toward keeping the fellowship moving through healing, growth, diversity, activism, and finding a minister. In the past 2 years, the board, many lay leaders, and I have accomplished many tasks necessary to the interim ministry process a process we all share in. Yet those tasks are mostly means to the end of the broader shifts you must move toward to stay relevant in a world that's rapidly changing around you. In other words, you can't keep putting polish on the systems you already have in place and expect larger changes to happen. The transformation needed to survive requires taking risks. And one of those risks is deciding who you are as a congregation, what purpose you serve in the community, and how you will serve your purpose. What I just described is mission, vision, and purpose. Now, by some necessity, the process necessary to naming the mission, at least, was put on hold while we all dealt with the disruption and distraction of the Article 2 revisions. And for those who are visiting or might not know, this is a major part of our identity as Unitarian Universalists in association with one another. So it was a big deal. But the process of developing a mission statement, is by necessity protracted and involved. And I urge you to get back to that. I urge you to dedicating yourselves to finding the core identity of this fellowship. You don't need a minister in place to do that work. And if you need help, the Southern region and the association has resources. Avail yourselves. Somebody said, the congregation is at a crossroads. That's very true. It's time to move on. In addition, I would say, find your mission, find your purpose, find your identity, and stay the course. The more you know about yourselves, where you've been, where you are, and where you're going, the better prepared you'll be to finding a good fit in a future minister. Stay in the search for a contract minister, not your forever minister, but one who can partner effectively in the work immediately ahead of you. Might they work remotely? Yes, but folks, that's a reality. That's a reality of the changes that are going on out there in the world around us. And remote ministry is not unusual in our congregations since the pandemic. Stretch and bend those adaptability muscles. You need to be flexible. Can you touch your toes? Stay hopeful. Believe in yourselves as stewards of this fellowship. You're going to discover the ways in which beloved members who passed from this earthly realm believe in you. Their faith was strong, maybe still is. So should be yours. The path to health and flourishing in this congregation will continue to be rocky for a while. Stay the path. Hope should not be a thing of feathers, but a stout walking stick that you grip to steady yourself when the road gets muddy and full of ruts. Finally, measure in love. There is no other quality of congregational life more valuable than centering love in all you do as Unitarian Universalists. Is centering love an abstract concept that might be taken up differently by others in the fellowship? Yes, but you manage it in other contexts of your life, such as with family, friends, in social circles. We do not need to think alike to love alike. Do your best. Be your best with one another in this fellowship. There are few other places in which right relationship is more important. Being a member in this fellowship means putting the good of the whole before your own interests. Learn to hold your difference within the whole of the congregation. At some point, if you are a member of a congregation, a religious institution, long enough, you're going to have a difference. You're not going to always see things the way that a lot of other people do. And that's okay. That's necessary. It shouldn't put you outside the circle, but should instead represent a part of the whole. It's often dialectical issues, problems, stances. If you stay in the conversation, they result in a third way. At the end of the day, measure yourselves in love, in the kindness you show to strangers as well as to one another, in naming yourselves and your priorities, and in being a beacon of hope to those seeking our progressive faith. We face an uncertain future. Let us be shelter to those who may need love, support, and faith in facing an uncertain future. It has been my honor and privilege to serve as your interim minister. I learned so much about myself as a minister here and about serving as an interim, which was a first for me. At times, the road was muddy and rough, but that's what makes the journey worthwhile, in my opinion. Nothing ventured is nothing gained, but more importantly, nothing learned. I'm the better and the wiser for serving you all, a congregation of talented, smart, kind, loving, curmudgeonly, energetic, caring, and compassionate people. I love you all, each one of you. I truly do.